you doing, good people? This is the 8-Bit Animal. Okay, so today's game is fairly obscure. It's actually really obscure. It's from 1986, so the earlier points of the NES library. And it's one of the earlier third-party titles to be released for the NES. It's a shmup, which y'all know is my favorite genre of game. And it actually is tied to a somewhat well-known shmup from the 90s called In the Hunt. They were both published by Irem, the makers of my favorite title on the NES, Metal Storm. But like I said, this one really is an obscure title. And it's really, for what it is, it's pretty cool. Today's game is Sqoon. Okay, so Sqoon, basically, the story for this game is pretty cut and dry. It's actually a standard alien invasion type storyline. Some aliens from the planet Neptune have run out of their primary food source, and they've decided to come to Earth to feed off of the humans. They melt the polar ice caps and essentially flood entire continents. So, Earth leaders have sought out this pirate who has a little pink submarine to push back the alien threat and help rescue some of the survivors who are trapped in these underground cities. Well, these underwater cities, I'm sorry. This game is your standard shmup, albeit with underwater twist, because it's set underwater, obviously. You control this little submarine, and it fires missiles and depth charges. The depth charges function kind of like bombs in a standard shoot 'em up where you're in the air. You shoot these little capsules on the ground. They release survivors, and you have to collect these survivors. Once your submarine is full with 8 or 9 survivors, I can't remember the number, a little island will float overhead, and you have to, basically fly up to the island, and the survivors will go into the island. Once all of the survivors are gone, the island releases a power-up for you. And it's really cut and dry. It's your standard shoot 'em up. To say it's from 1986, the action is pretty fast. It has your standard slowdown, stuff that's seen in early NES titles. But the good thing about shmups is that slowdown can be a good thing as long as it's not debilitating. Sqoon, there's a few things in the import version of this game, the Famicom version, that weren't seen in the NES version for obvious reasons, like a topless mermaid and collecting random crosses and stuff like that. These things weren't in the US version because of Nintendo of America's strict guidelines towards censorship. That being said, those things didn't really take away from the gameplay in the game, whether it was the US version or the Famicom version, because it's a solid title that just didn't get enough burn in the US. As far as finding a copy of Sqoon, if you want a copy, they usually start at about between 25 and 30 bucks. I got mine, I lucked out and got mine for 10 at a reseller. And once I checked the resale price at that point, copies were averaging at that point $40. So that's 2 RM titles that are fairly obscure that are in my collection. That being said, you may want to, if you can find an emulator of Sqoon, try it out before you go searching out a cartridge, because like I said, it's not an easy cartridge to come across. And make sure that you're into that genre of game. If you don't like shmups, you may not even want to mess with it. Because it is, regardless of the submarines and underwater theme and you shooting fish and all that, it's a shmup. This has been the 8-Bit Animal. And I'll catch you beautiful people tomorrow.